Thai International Circuit played host to round 2 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship, returning to the calendar for the first time since 2015. With a combination of unusual corners, including the tightening first turn and the elongated, ever-opening turn 13, the circuit is a tough one to master. The hairpin at turn 14 is a prime spot for overtaking due to it being at the end of a 1.2 kilometer DRS straight. It was reigning champion Michele D'Alessandro who took a convincing pole position, almost 3/10 ahead of his 2018 rival Jurnej Simoncic. Mohamed Patel qualified in third, ahead of Martin Gosby and Peter Burlak. The surprise of the session was Arne Schonvliet, who managed to place his ground effect car in 6th, ahead of Michi Hoyer and Robin Panzer. Wojciech Lukaszek starts in 9th, with debutant Peo Pave rounding out the top 10. Both Jeffrey Fournier and Sander Kallas struggled, whilst Bojan Bogdanov makes his WC debut, standing in for Kirill Birakov, who is expected to make his return in Azerbaijan. 3 drivers received back-of-the-grid penalties as a result of incidents from Melbourne, with Ricardo Costa electing to start from the pit lane. As the 5 lights began to illuminate, Jurnej Simoncic had his sights set on the Italian champion ahead. Lights out, and the ACR Zakspeed was immediately on the attack, getting the better launch. Michele could do nothing, and a slight bit of contact sealed the deal. Behind, Peter Burlak managed to get ahead of Gosby. But for the other edge of Daniel Kish, the start was a disaster as contact with Peo Pave sent both into the barrier and presented them with an unwanted trip to the pits. Arne Schonvliet was also on the attack, braking late into turn 6 in his efforts to pass Gosby. The ground effect got the better exit, and with the inside line into turn 7, it meant advantage for Schonvliet. Down the back straight, and Mohamed Patel made good use of the draft to make light work of his teammate who offered little resistance. Lap 2, and putting the power down too quickly spelled disaster for Kallas, and created images that the Invictus Motorsport team would not want to see replayed. All 3 cars were out almost instantly. Later that lap, and another joined them, a technical fault leading to the ground effect of Jos Araneda barrel rolling out of the race. Mohamed Patel was on a charge as he made light work of Jurnej Simoncic at the hairpin. Behind, the draft on the back straight was immensely strong. Michi Hoyer made great use of it to pass both Gosby and Schonvliet at once. Being forced onto the AstroTurf was not ideal for the Brit, as it allowed Lukaszek to get alongside. But Lukaszek himself had to take to the turf, which allowed Robin Panzer through. Not for long, however, as Wojciech drove down the inside to maintain 8th position. Lap 6, and a mistake from Schonvliet put him right into the clutches of Gosby. Although he was able to defend at turn 11, it was going to be tricky to keep him behind for long. A further mistake sealed the deal. A few laps later on down the road, and with the use of DRS, Lukaszek also made light work of Schonvliet. The ground effects tyres were wearing quickly, as shown when he got all crossed up on the final corner and allowed Robin Panzer through as well. The Belgian's tyres had completely had it. Blood was in the air, and the pack was onto him. The situation got even worse when Fournier dove down the inside of turn 6, and the pair locked wheels on exit, forcing Schonvliet onto the grass and costing him further time and positions. At the end of that lap, he unsurprisingly pitted, but his rear tyres were so worn that his car simply rotated on pit entrance. With little space to rejoin, he had no choice but to retire. Lap 12, and Michele D'Alessandro became the first of the front runners to pit for a set of the hard compound tyres. Race leader Mohamed Patel pitted a lap later, however he was oh so close to being undercut by his teammate. This did not bode well for Jurnej Simoncic, who pitted yet another lap later, and that showed as he had not only been undercut by D'Alessandro, but was only just ahead of Peter Burlak. With the increased momentum and hotter tyres, he was able to instantly drive around the outside of the Slovenian. like in Australia, the frontrunners needed to pass cars who had started on the harder compound tyre and had yet to stop, and things got a little hairy when race leader Patel made a slight bit of contact with Van der Niet's Netrex. In the lead of the race on the road was Yuri Kastorp, who was hoping the alternate strategy would elevate him up the order. He was running ahead of the two Oren Millers, who were also yet to pit. As Kastorp and Costa came in, Patel caught Fournier, but the Oren Miller defended, showing that he wasn't simply going to let the net leader through. Fournier himself pitted at the end of that lap and rejoined behind Costa on the medium compound tyre. Lap 38, and D'Alessandro came into the pits for his second and final scheduled stop for a new set of the hard tyre. Race leader Patel struggled on his in-laps, which enabled Burlak to get close and have a run. Patel tried to block the inside, but Burlak had better traction off the hairpin. The Brit had no response. Unsurprisingly, the undercut worked a treat for D'Alessandro, as when Burlak had pitted, he was still behind the Italian, despite having passed Patel. But Burlak was on a charge, and made use of his fresh medium tyres and DRS to make light work of D'Alessandro, with the reigning champion not offering much resistance. Now all the attention was on Jurnej Simoncic, as everyone waited to see when he would make his final stop. But the ACR Zach Speed was showing no signs of pitting. And as the laps wound down, it became very apparent that the Slovenian was doing a one-stop strategy. Once he had passed the point of no return, the big question was, could he do the impossible and make such a bold strategy work? As the race drew to its conclusion, Burlak's mediums began to fade, and he could do nothing to prevent the hard tyre shod D'Alessandro from having a run. Petter did all he could, but with the better tyres, the reigning champion emerged in front. Jurnej Simoncic had been on this set of hards since lap 14, so naturally, despite the hard tyre seemingly being the better race tyre, the rest of the leaders were chasing him down. One more lap could have been enough for Michele, but Jurnej handled the situation expertly and kept his cool. Jurnej's bold strategy had worked and rewarded him with a second consecutive win ahead of D'Alessandro and Burlak. Having led in the early stages, Mohammed Patel was disappointed with fourth. The two ACR Zaxby blue cars of Robin Panzar and Martin Gosby finishing 5th and 6th behind him, but ahead of Michi Hoyer and Wojciech Lukaszek, who came home 7th and 8th. Yuri Kastorp and Ricardo Costa rounding out the points, having used the alternate strategy to amazing effect. The same could not be said for Geoffrey Fournier, who wasn't able to repeat his Melbourne heroics. It's been a fantastic start to the season for Jurnej Simoncic, who has a 17-point lead after just 2 races. His closest rivals, Petter Burlak and Michele D'Alessandro, are now going to have to dig deep to take this fight to him. But with a long way to go in the championship, it is still well up for grabs. ACR Zach Speed still lead the team's table by 16 points, with second placed Jean Alesi Esports just ahead of Edge and ACR Zach Speed Blue, who are equal on points. Oren Miller have had a reasonable start, scoring 11 points in the opening 2 rounds, whilst 3 teams have yet to score a point. So thank you very much for watching this highlights video, and join us on the 5th of May on this YouTube channel for live coverage of round 3 of the 2019 Thrustmaster Formula Sim Racing World Championship, taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan.